So what are your thoughts on early voting, Lori?
Well, I think the Democrats in particular have been excited and enthusiastic about the early voting numbers. The early voting numbers they saw in Florida were at historic levels, historic numbers of Latinos in particular in the early voting numbers. In North Carolina, they saw some optimistic minority early voting, not quite what they had hoped on the African American vote, but across the board, and even in the Southwest, Nevada, a very much changing state, they saw good news. The Democrats, though, do have a tendency to grab on to that good news at the outset and perhaps overread into it. So it does not necessarily indicate this is where election night is going to go. But it fits into their narrative that this is a new set of voters, that the demographics are changing, and that they represent this new America as it expands and as the electorate grows. So that's their narrative. Early voting fit into it. We'll see where election night takes us.
Of course, some of those early votes would have been cast while the FBI director had reopened the investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails. So we don't know, and they don't know how that played into how people voted.
That's all.
Another thing that you might want to add is also the fact that the rules on early voting changed a lot from 212 to 216, that some states, for example, restricted early voting. That's the case of North Carolina. That other states shortened the period, or other states had voter ID laws that made it, again, more difficult for early voters. So using the numbers of 212 or 208 in order to ascertain what those early votes means is a little bit presumptuous in my opinion.
Indeed. However, there have been about some 40% of early votes that were cast before. Of course, the big day is today, Election Day. What's really key on Election Day is the ground game, is getting people to the ballots, making sure they can vote effectively, making sure they do actually get out the door and vote. And it does seem across the board as if Hillary Clinton's campaign has a bit stronger ground game than Donald Trump's. Lori.
Well, I think Hillary Clinton's campaign strategy has been, again and again, go back to what you know, prepare for it for years, build the structure, and use it to outreach. And that's what she did on trying to get voters engaged. They really tried to reach out with as much formalized information as they could to register new voters. Let's get as many registered. Let's have a huge get out the vote effort. Let's focus on building as many fundraising for as many field offices. They've, over the last week, been opening, moving offices around, moving priorities around, and they had all of that structure to do so. And they also made a concerted effort, especially in the last weeks, to outreach to millennials. They knew that was a weak point for them. And they had, in the last couple of months, in the last, let's say, 8 weeks or so, really tried to build up their presence on college campuses. Some high-profile social events with all the recent, Hollywood stars, the NBA players, the huge concerts. All of that was let's jazz up the campaign, get out to millennials. So they made a concerted effort. Trump, at his core, has been non-traditional in every single effort. He has reached out to what he thinks are new voters that were not heard before, and we'll see if the non-traditional way works for him.